Hi everyone. At Grindr, we are currently in the midst of rewriting our iOS and Android clients in order to make them better. We have decided to adopt behavior-driven development, test-driven development, and pair programming as our development process. In this video, I try to describe what they are and what tools and technologies we use for the development of our iOS apps. Our product owner, Matt, writes the user stories in Pivotal Tracker. Each of these user stories is written using the following structure: title, narrative, and scenarios or acceptance criteria. Here's an example user story. Notice how it adheres to the structure of our BDD user story template. In order to implement the stories, the iOS team uses a process called test-driven development. As the name implies, we use tests to drive the development of our code. Typically, we write a test that fails, then write enough code to make it pass. We then refactor as much as possible to make our code shine. I mentioned pair programming, and here it is. 2 displays, 2 keyboards, and 2 trackpads connected to one powerful Mac Pro. One person drives, the other person helps, then we switch. To write the tests, we use an Objective-C framework called Cedar. Cedar is a BDD-style testing framework developed by Pivotal Labs. It allows us to take the different scenarios and acceptance criteria in a story and turn them into distinct tests. We even use it to test our user interface. Here's what a test would look like in Cedar. In order to ensure a high percentage of test coverage, we run our test coverage scripts before pushing our code to our remote repository and fail builds that don't cover at least 95% of our code through tests. In addition to test coverage, we also compute the cyclomatic complexity of each method in each class and fail builds where a given method's complexity goes above 4. As soon as we push our code to our remote repository, it is picked up by our continuous integration tool, CircleCI. CircleCI builds our app and pushes it to Hockey App for distribution. QA tests our completed stories by downloading the latest version from Hockey App. In addition to CircleCI and Hockey App, we also make use of another homegrown tool, Sukeru, to help us visualize the state of our code. Sukeru grades our code based on its test coverage percentage, complexity, and number of rule violations. We always strive for a grade of A. We realize that TDD is hard. It takes a long time to write tests and keep them up to date, especially when it comes to testing user interfaces. Impairing on feature implementations may seem like a waste of precious development capacity. It's true. In our experience, our initial velocity would be at least twice as fast if we were to forego writing tests and programming in pairs. However, we think there are enough benefits to testing and pairing that make them worth the effort. Our comprehensive test harness allows new developers to become familiar with the code quickly by reading and executing our tests. And as our codebase grows and becomes more complex, it will give us the confidence to refactor. Pair programming, on the other hand, allows each of us to stay familiar with most parts of our code and drive some healthy discussions about architecture and quality. In this video, I described how we developed iOS apps at Grindr. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to know what tools and methods you use for your iOS app development. Let me know.